Chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Minnesota, Ms. Bachmann, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I also want to thank and welcome to this committee the new chairman of the Federal Reserve. We're extremely grateful for you being here, and also good luck on your service as the head of the Federal Reserve. We want you to be successful.
Thank you.
We asked our constituents what their number one question would be today. This is a historic opportunity to have a new Federal Reserve chair, and we had a plethora of responses from constituents with questions, but it was interesting that there was a commonality of the questions that came forth. One was really from our financial institutions and businesses, and the first was from individual constituents. And so I would like to give you, first of all, the question that we received most from our constituents, and it was this. It was, you and other opponents of the Audit the Fed legislation have said that it threatens the independence of the Federal Reserve. Could you please point to a specific section of the bill that allows Congress to interfere with the ability of the Federal Reserve to determine monetary policy? My constituents absolutely can't understand why the Federal Reserve would push back against having the Federal Reserve audited.
So I strongly believe that the Federal Reserve should be audited. It should be open. It should be transparent. We are audited. We're audited by the GAO in almost every aspect of our financial affairs and the programs that we run. We have outside independent accounting firms that audit the Fed. We publish our balance sheet weekly. All of this is completely appropriate. What I don't agree with and would strongly oppose is interfering with the independence of monetary policy by bringing political pressures to bear on the committee's judgment about what is the appropriate way to implement monetary policy. We're given objectives by Congress that's completely appropriate. We report to Congress. You should hold us accountable and ask us to explain how our policies advance the goals that you have assigned to us. But if you pass a bill that would have the GAO come and take documents, second-guess every decision that we make, or permit them to do that within a short time of our making those decisions and bring political pressures to bear, Congress wisely made the Fed independent in the implementation of policy because it was understood that we sometimes have to make difficult decisions that would be hard for the Congress to make in the best long-run interests of the country, and enabling us to make those decisions free of short-term political pressure is critical to maintaining our independence.
Thank you, and I hear what your response is. Our former colleague, Ron Paul, who had introduced the legislation to audit the Fed, contained within the language of that bill, there is no section that deals with giving Congress the right to determine monetary policy. If the House and the Senate were to pass the Audit the Fed legislation, if the President of the United States would pass that legislation, this is very strong bipartisan legislation, if that happened, would we hear from all of you at the Federal Reserve opposition to that bill that enjoys very strong support from the American public?
You would hear opposition to that bill because Congress has, for many, many years, for decades, exempted from GAO audits our monetary policy decisions. And it's really critical that our monetary policy decision-makings, not other aspects of Federal Reserve operations, remain free of GAO audits.
And I think that's part of the reason why we're here in this hearing today, because the American people are feeling less and less empowered to be able to hold the Federal Reserve responsible and accountable, because they're seeing the Federal Reserve's balance sheet escalate to a level never before seen in American history. And the people know that eventually they will be the ones called upon to meet the bills and payments that are accumulated by the Federal Reserve. What means do the American people have to hold the Federal Reserve accountable?
In hearings like this, it's entirely appropriate for you to demand accountability for me and for my colleagues.
And that's
Time.